All right. Good night, Fifi Johnny. How you doing? Thank you for being here. What's going on? Happy Gardening 2023. Welcome to Gardening Class 2023, 6/11/23. All right. Thank you guys for coming through. Appreciate each and every one of you. All right. So I'm just gonna give just a few minutes in case anyone else wanna come in because sometimes the video gonna be there really that you could always go back and watch for a period of time, so the video could gonna be there. But I'm just gonna hold on a few minutes until it's all done. But sorry for being late tonight. Sorry. Hey boy Blue, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Appreciate you coming through. Welcome to Garden Class 2023. All right. We went through a series of, this is, I think, is the fifth class. I don't know, yeah, around the fifth class. But we start from the beginning. We talk about preparing yourself for gardening, how to prepare yourself. We talk about the soil. We talk about planting. We even talk about manure. When to manure, I think that was the last class. The last class was when to manure your plant. When is a good time to manure your plant? Yes, we did talk about that. That was the last class we had. When to manure your plant. So tonight we're going to talk a little about growing, because we ain't reach harvest time yet. We're still growing. So we talk about manuring the plant at a certain stage when they now start growing, and then a little dose when the plant start producing flower and blossom. Then we could start put it back in, give it a little dose, not too much, just a little dose. So we're gonna go back in between the growing process now tonight. We talk about manure, but we're gonna go back to the growing process. Okay, yes, that was the last topic, when to fertilize, right? So we went and we talked about the early stage and the final stage, but we didn't really talk about growing and what to look for while the plant is growing, the things to look for. Well, I only could tell you from my perspective, but all plants is the same at the end of the day. And once you could identify certain things in plants, and then the following year you could correct certain things you see, it's good for you because you want to be actually getting better on what you're doing because you're learning. So let's talk about the growing season of these plants, right? The growing season, meaning you plant, we didn't talking about manure today. We're not talking about that. Talking about the growing process. Like for instance, when after planting, the best time for me to plant is a nice rain must fall the day before or on that day. Just not too heavy. Just the dew, just come down and really soak the earth. That's one of the best time you could ever plant. Or even though you plant and then the rain come after and dew, that's beautiful as well. instead of come and beat it down heavy, the June, that's one of the best time to plant. When you planting, you try not to damage the root of the plant, because if you damage the root of the plant, you're slowing down the growth of the plant. So for people who have short growing season, you cannot mess with that root. You try your best to deal with that root with cautious, that you ain't damage it. I mean, sometimes it happens, but just try your best, if you damage it, not to do too much damage. If you're able to do that, and you plant your plant on a day, whether it's rain the day before or it's rain on that same day, or it rain. It didn't rain at all. Because sometimes you got to plant and it's just not raining. After you plant them, whether it's raining or it's not, after you plant them, you make sure you try not to damage the root. If you're planting baby plants and the sun is burning on a regular, meaning burning, say for instance, you plant in June, in the end, whichever month you plant, once the sun is beaming, take extra care with them. Yes, definitely extra care, because at the end of the day, you're not trying to damage the root. Anytime you damage the root, you're slowing the growth of the plant, because it got to develop the same root it already had when it could have been pushing new roots. If it doesn't rain, plant in the evening after the sun. Definitely, if it doesn't rain, if it doesn't, that's yes. If it doesn't rain, don't plant it in the morning or in the middle of the day, especially if the sun is blazing. You wait in the evening when the sun go down, and that's when you go outside and plant. Yes, that's definitely true. Because the sun, you got to remember, even though you plant them deep, it's so much you could cover. And the sun will penetrate that root. This is why, in certain occasion, if the sun is blazing and you know plant, you should really try to wet them on morning. You should really try to wet them on morning, because the young and the heat, you want, just like how we thirsty, when the sun penetrates us, we thirsty, we need water. It's the same if the sun penetrates that root. And you know they're young, so even though you plant them deep, before you fold back up that hole, the sun is shining and hovering over that hole. So it's penetrating. So it's wise to go and give them a little water, because they're young. So you give them a little water. That's important. And morning. And if you can, an evening. That's only if the sun is really beating them in the day. I'm only talking about baby plants. I'm not talking about grown plants. Only the baby one that you know transplant if the sun is beaming. If you able to plant without damage the root, if you able to plant without damage the root, you on a road of, basically rejoicing. Because if you really know how to plant these plants, right? By the time you chuck them in the soil, they're ready to go. You see what I'm saying? Once you damage that root, by the time you put them in that soil, they're ready to grow. They start growing, because nothing hold them back. But when you damage the root, they got to develop back these roots. So once you damage the root and you do it, plant it right, these plants are going to just continue growing. So now your plants them start growing, or maybe some shade cloth or protect. Yes, whatever you got to do to protect them, you do what you gotta do. But it's very important to give them that early morning water. Very important. Because the water could sustain them until in the evening or when they get that dew at night. But you should get up in the morning once you see the sun is blazing and you know set baby plan. Yes, you should definitely do that. If you could come up with shade cloth to protect them, that's fine too. That's fine too. But you should wet them in the morning to deal with that sun throughout the day. You should definitely wet them. Once the sun is beaming, once the sun is really hot and humid and just coming down, yes, you should. Because that's when I wet my baby plant. Only if the sun is beaming. Other than that, they got to stay there and fight it out. But yes, once you plant them and you realize that they start growing, especially you in damage them root, they're going to start growing pretty fast. When you see they start growing, as usual, guys, you always go and pull the soil around their root. The more bigger they get, the more you pile the soil around their root. While they're growing, you keep pulling the soil around their root. You keep pulling. So while you're doing that, they're just developing root because you're not supposed to be seeing these white roots. You're not supposed to be seeing any roots from a plant. That root's supposed to be covered with dirt. When the root is covered with dirt, they give the plant, like what they do it, like you just give the plant a signal, let's go, keep pushing, because the soil, you see, when the root, you got to remember, when the root is exposed, the sun gonna hit that root, and that's where the problem comes in. These little baby white root that these plants pushing, and the heat of the sun penetrate them, it causing an effect on them. So if you have the root covered really nice, the sun is not going to do anything to them. So all they're going to do is spread, and you just keep bringing soil. You just keep bringing the soil around them, bringing the soil. When you realize, the plant's going to start to show you a color. It's going to start to show you a color that is just different. Well, I don't know for the people who use their chemical and stuff. I don't know if they could see that kind of green I'm talking about. But for the organic people who doing it organic, there's a certain green does show in that plant. It show a green, it indicate a green, and it just tell you, I'm okay now. You see what I'm saying? I'm okay. My root is well covered. All this is telling you, my root, because all the time you always pulling your dirt. You always pulling your dirt around them. So when they reach that stage now where their root is well covered, all them little roots coming up, you've been covering. That's why it's important to plant deep too. So while a plant is growing and pushing root, you're just pushing down in the hole. So now, when these roots been covered and realize they covered, they start pushing this green. And this green shows you, listen me, the plant is actually telling you, I'm okay now, I'm done. So all you do now, you just relaxing. You might go down in the garden, see if there's any weed you need to clean up, but you don't really need to do anything to these plants anymore. You did what you need to do to these plants. So now nature is taking over from you. Nature now is what nourishing this plant now and push it to that stage of where it start pushing flowers. Or if it's brassica, where they start pushing more leaf. But once it's giving you see, it's only a certain part that we really supposed to be putting in the work, which is the young stage of the plant. The young stage of the plant, that's where you put in the work. So it's like a child. When do you put in the work for the child? At the young baby stage, when it cannot walk, when it need help, when you got to put the bottle in the mouth, when you got to make the milk, when you got to do this, you got to make sure the baby eat. Same thing with the plant. And once you reach that stage, you ain't got to do nothing to the plant. All you're doing is sit back and let nature step in. Nature now take over from you. And nature now is what gonna start pushing out. You're gonna start see the flower stage, where the flowers start coming out. Whatever, if it's fruits, if it's pepper, these kind of plants that push out, like a fruit, tomato, whatever. Once you see that green, your job is done. You just leave it to nature. You ain't got to do nothing else. You leave it to nature. Let nature do its work now. The only thing you do is walk around and make sure everything is okay. Make sure the weeds ain't taking over that crazy. You can allow them to grow, but not to take over the plant. So once you're able to recognize that green and know my job is done and let nature do its job, you stand a great chance of reaping in abundance. The thing is, we don't know when to leave the plants alone. Plenty of us really don't know when to leave the plants alone, when the plant don't want to be bothered. There's a time when the plant is going through its stages. Plants go through stages. Plants go through growing stages, and they also go through the stage where they're growing in a certain way now, because now they're getting ready for develop and push out. Babies, you cannot be, it might sound crazy, but you cannot be doing too much to them at that time. This is why in the early stage, that's when you do the job. That's when you put in the work. That's when you do what you got to do. That's when you pull up the door. That's when you understand? And in that stage of development, that plant don't even want you to put anything around it, because it reached that stage where I'm doing my part now. You did your part, let nature do its part. But most of the time, we still bother the plants going down, even into the process where it start getting ready to put out flowers. You gotta leave the plant at that moment. Let nature do its work with the plant. After you see flowers, then you go in with a little dosage of the manure, not too much, just a little, to give it that strength, because now it's pushing babies. So all you do is give it that little dose that it can help strengthen it to produce these babies. But there's a time when you don't need to touch these plants. You don't need to pull any dot around them. You don't need to, listen to me, this is real information I'm giving here right now. Serious information. Once you recognize the green in the plant, once you recognize that green, you always hear me say, once you see that green, the plant is telling you, I'm good. Go find yourself, go walk on some other plant. I'm okay now. That plant, they want you bother it until it start to push flowers. That's when you go with a little dose of compost and throw around it, that it can help the plant, strengthen the plant for production. So always remember that green look. It's a green look that could catch any ice. Once you see that green, it can catch any ice. You know what I'm saying? Then you stop. I already did my research on this already. I already did in two different places I did this research already, and see what and look at the outcome of the results. What I've gained from it is, after seeing the green, that plant don't want to be bothered. That plant is going through a stage now where it just want to be, like we will say, I just want to be left alone to think for a moment. That is the stage the plant is going through. It is going through a stage of, I just want to be left alone and let me just do my thing, connect, let nature do its job and preserve the plant and push the plant into the stage of bring forth flowers. This is a road of production. Great production in your garden. Many of us, we still mess with the plant, and all the way down, we still keep messing with it. We still trying to dig and trying. No, the plant ain't want you do nothing to it. After it don't show you that green, it don't want you do anything to it. It going through that stage now where it just doing what it got to do. And, nature walking on the plant, preserving it, getting this plant ready. You know what I'm saying? Getting the plant ready for that time. Start pushing flowers. Then after flowers, you know what's going on. Like I keep saying, your plants, when you talk about pepper, okra, these kind of plants that push out fruits, tomatoes, you should always have 4 stages. You should always have 4 stages. You're supposed to have some that ready to harvest. You're supposed to have some that almost there. Then you're supposed to have baby ones coming through. Then you have flowers. And that's supposed to be a continuous, but you have to allow these plants. We only could do so much. And this way, we have to understand. This is what we got to understand, that it's only so much we can do to a plant. Our job is to babe when the plant become a baby. When the plant become a baby, you plant them. Your job is to take care of the plant, just like the baby you have. Care for it, feed it. That's your job. Hey, Urban Garden Chronicle, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Yes. So after that stage of feeding that baby, when the baby get old and start running, what you do now, when the baby get older, what you do? You try protect the baby. That's your job now. Protecting the baby. Make sure the baby is okay. Make sure nothing is in the way for the baby to tumble over. Your job now is to take care of the baby and make sure everything okay. Same thing with the plant. Your job is to go in the garden and make sure weeds and vines ain't running up and taking over the plant. That's all you do. But you leave the plant, let it develop. Let nature walk on it, develop it, and prepare it for that time to produce. And if you could only do that, you're going to see the type of harvest you receive. You will see the type of harvest you receive. Your fruits will be as big as the supermarket, and you ain't use chemical. And you're gonna be content. Well, you guys see my heart. You guys know what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? Once they start producing, they're not stopping until the last frost. Once they start producing, they're not stopping until that last frost. Okay? I'm just giving you guys the information that I've been doing my own research. I've been doing my own experiment. I've been doing this for years. And this is what I gain from experimenting in plants. I also do my own experiment with a tape measure. I also know the looks of the plants. And by me looking at the plant, I know whether it's doing well, but just the body, and it could green. It could green, but by me looking at the body and the stalk of the plant, that could show me that something is a little off. Most of the time, most of the time, we just be wrong. Like when you see something a little off. Sometimes they might be in an area. They might be in an area and they don't like too much water. But what happened? That area might be in an area where water holds and settle because it's not running. You know what I'm saying? It's not running off. So it's kind of settling in that area. And because the plant do not like their root to always be wet, you could create a little situation. So by you see that now, the next year, next growing season, you're gonna do that area in a way that the water can run off instead of settle. So gardening is really deep, guys. It's a very deep thing. And listen to me, it's so much to learn in gardening. Is so much to learn, you mightn't believe. It's so much thing. You see what I'm saying? But with an open mind, and willing to learn, is so much to learn. But if you close your mind, then you're not gonna able to learn anything. But growing to be so, why? Just listen, just think about it, guys. Think about it, right? I can talk about how my garden gonna look for the following year. Why you think I could do that and talk it bowl in the air, like doing it live or doing it in a video? I'm comfortable with it because you already know. You see what I'm saying? All this come from my experiment, my experience. That's where it comes from. And I don't just do things once. Sometimes I do this thing 5, 6, 7 times just to get full confirmation. And then after I get the full confirmation, then I come out and talk bold. You see what I'm saying? I could speak bold about it because I have proof of what I'm talking about. And yes, gardening is an amazing thing to put your mind to. Always strive for the best and never feel you know enough. Every day you put your foot out there, go out there willing to learn something new. Yep. Succession planting. That's a good way to do gardening succession. That's a good way. I think that's a beautiful way. God, yes, garden is, yes, 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 yes. Very involved. And I don't know how anyone might see it, but if you listen to me, you're gonna hear me say, I just be in my garden for 6, 7 hours. If you listen to what I'm saying. So to able to get these kind of production, it take works. But the thing about it, you're gonna be in the garden for 6, 7 hours in the young stage. But after the young stage, you ain't got to do that no more because these plants, like I now mentioned, once you see that green, all your job is to walk in the garden, make sure there's no vines is running up on the plant, make sure there's no weed trying to take them over. That's your job. But you got to leave these plants and let nature do its work. You not even molding them up you want to do. That done already. You don't do that in the early stage. No. It's like a grown, it's like the plant become grown now. You know what I'm saying? It's like your child. You try to groom them, you try to speak to them, you try to tell them everything. But when them reach that age now, when them grown, and even though they might not have kids, but they grown, they reach that stage where they grow now. You just got to leave them and try to make, look and make sure everything is going good with them. But you know what I mean? You got to leave them for develop. They have to get developed. The plants is the same thing. You got to leave the plants, let them deal with nature and develop. That's why you prepare their root in the right way. You make sure you pull dirt around them. After that hole is full up, you pull dirt around them. Once you see that green, just leave the plant alone. After you see flowers, that's when you go mess back with the plant. Give it a little dose of fertilizer, manure, compost. Not talking about them kind of stuff. Throw a dose of that around it, and you just harvesting. You catch yourself every day with a bowl in your garden, or every 2 days. You'll be harvesting so much you want to know what the hell this. You now see the thing them small, small, small. Then when you 2 days, you go back. You have to go grab a bowl for harvest. So guys, I'm just hoping, remember, not telling you to leave your way and follow me. I just want you to try and see for yourself. That's all I want you to do. Yes, that's all I want you to do. Try. Because you be harvesting like you're crazy. You want to know. Do you see the kind of pepper I just be harvesting? You see how I just be taking my hand and pulling. I can't harvest one pepper at a time. I got to be pulling them. Many times I break the limb and walk with the limbs them on my back especially late down in the season. Like when you hit like in November, that you know that frost is coming. I don't just be popping limbs and peppers and just put them and just walk with them. And you guys see for yourself. So I'm just giving you guys the way that I do my thing and my production, how much I harvest, how much I get, the way my plants them grow, the way my plants them look. I'm basically giving you all of that. You see what I'm saying? So Let's go over that again. I don't want to give too much information because sometimes, it's best to just give a certain amount that can just resonate with you. Sometimes too much information, sometimes some slip away. So I'm gonna go over what we now talk about. I'm gonna go over that again. Okay. All right. So we planting, right? We in the heart of planting season. So we planting. And if we ready to plant and there's no rain coming, it's best to do it in the morning. Most likely in the evening. Not even the morning. The evening is better. The evening is definitely better. But if the sun is blazing, that's only if the sun is blazing. You get up in the morning, not midday, not in the middle of the day. You get up in the morning and you give them a little water. So that water gonna carry them through to deal with that hot sun right through the day. In the evening, if you have time, you ain't even have to do it. But if you have time and you feel like giving them a little more because the sun is really beaming, yes, you can do that. Because you want to make sure they survive. Because this is the baby stage. You want to make sure that, so if you got to give them a little water, you do that. But before you do all of that, you want to make sure while you're planting, you're not damaging the roots of the plant. You make sure you try to be delicate with these plants. So you want to make sure that I'm doing this and I'm not damaging the root. If you're able to do that, your plant stand a better chance of start growing one time. From the time you dip them, from the time you take them out the container, they never stop. And drop them in the dirt, they hold up right there and they just continue growing because the root did not get damaged. When the root get damaged, you got to go back over. They got to go back over and develop the same root they already did when they should be developing new roots. They got to go back and develop these same roots you damage. The main root of the plant, you don't want to damage the main root. The main root is the one, the long one that keep pushing, and that's also feeding. But that's the one we go further. You see? The white roots is that's a baby root that they push out after. But these roots also feed as well. So you want to make sure that these same white roots always covered. You don't want the sun to penetrate these roots. So they have to be covered at all times. When it covered, what happened is it's going to be pushing more roots continuously because the roots them is not getting damaged. So they're able to continue spread. So while they're spreading, this plant is just pushing more roots. When you see that, yes, the top root have to be handled with care. Definitely, you cannot allow the sun to penetrate that. That's going to help back the growth of your plant as well. So the sun not supposed to touch. A matter of fact, the sun not supposed to touch the root. The root ain't designed to be for the sun penetrated. You see where the root go? Under the soil. So if you planting them, you got to make sure their root is under the soil and not on top where the sun is beaming on them. So you make sure you had that cover planting them the right way. Keep pulling soil around them. Make sure the root covered at all time. Then when you see that green look of that plant, There's a green that will draw your attention. As soon as you see that, as soon as you see that green, that you think like that it draw your attention, as soon as you see that, you could give it just a little, man, just a little compost, just a little, not no big dose of nothing, just a little, and just leave the plant alone. Don't, all you do, make sure there's vines is not taking it over, there's weeds not grow up and try to take it over. That's your job now. You leave that plant until you see flowers. So that stage you leave the plant for, you allow the plant to basically do what it need to do. Instead of you messing with it and you feel you doing something, no. That stage is when that plant need to do what it need to do with nature. You did your part. Your part now is to relax and wait for harvest for your hard labor. Your hard labor that you put in, now is your time to relax and wait for harvest. Okay? So what you do, you take care of the plant, leave it to that stage. Then, after you hit flowers, when you see flowers, that's when you give it a little dose. Again, because now, mommy is ready to produce fruits. So that little dose you give it, not no heavy dose. Kind of want to give it too heavy, because you might give it too heavy and you start tasting what you're putting around the plant. So only a little dose just to help it, give it that little strength to able to produce. So after, you see, your hardest job is the beginning, cleaning up, planting, taking care until you see that green. After that green, you're on a relaxing mode until you see flowers. When you see flowers, you give a little dose and your job done. You only relaxing now, waiting for harvest time. That's your job. You can't overdo it with these plants. There's only a certain amount we could do for these plants. These plants got to do things on their own. You see what I'm saying? They got to do things for themselves. So our job is to bring them from planting to that stage where they reach, where they're growing for themselves. And you done. These plants got to do for themselves. So don't kill yourself and think yourself. Work hard in the beginning. Work the hardest in the beginning. After the beginning is rest time for you. Is harvest, is smiling, is cooking. Your mindset now on prepping. That's where your mind go now. All right, man, damn. These, these peppers, these squash, that's where your mind gone. Prepping time. As I said, guys, this is how I do it. And it worked perfect for me. Perfect. I can't even say work good. I say perfect for me. Perfect for me. Not even good. Perfect for me. So this is what I'm sharing here with you guys. Not telling you to stop, do it how you do it. But if you could try a few plans and see for yourself. That's all I can tell you. Good advice. Thank you. Thank you. After the green, look out for the rabbit. Well, if you got rabbit, then you have a situation. Like I see the rabbit in your video, I don't know. I saw one last year too. But the thing about it is, I only see one, which I'm grateful. I'm not trying to see no nest of them and no 5 and 6 of them. I was grateful to see one, but the thing is, if you see one, you know there's more. And what they like to do is eat down my potato vines and my okra them. And my okra them now coming up. So yes, I'm hoping not to see them, but you just never know. So that, yeah, you're right. After them greens, them beautiful, the rabbit will, because they covered for the beautiful plant. I don't got too much problem. It's just my okra and my sweet potato vines. That's what it does deal with me with. And this year, I plant my potato in a big tub. So when the vines grow up and run down on the ground, they could eat them on the ground. But they're not going to be eating them right from the time they push out the earth. When they run in, they could eat them. That's cool. Yes. There is tree that hang around my garden. Ooh, tree. Damn. You might have to get a cage. You might have to get a chop for them, the boy, because them look like they ain't going nowhere. Yes, guys. So don't want to go too much deeper right now. I think that's enough information for tonight. I have some in grow bag and some in the ground. What, sweet potato? They love sweet potato vines, I tell you that. They love it. Yes, guys, so tonight again, I set a chop last night, but it didn't go into it. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe they ain't going as yet. Maybe you might get lucky. Maybe you should put some carrots or something inside there. They love carrots too. Maybe you might be able to catch them in that form. But I don't know why they just come in my garden. It's so much stuff all over the place to eat. All over. And they come in and eat on my okra and my tomato. All over the place, there's food for them. Well, they eat their own vegetables, so they might be good. As if we put some potato slip in the jar. Right, that might be a good idea because they love potato vines. That might be a good idea. They love potato vines. Young okra is sweet, so they must like it. Maybe that's why they eat them down. They just be eating them down, but then okra. Let me tell you what does go on, right? They just be eating the okra. They will come and they will eat. They will come back, they will eat. But sometimes when you hear these okra take off, start growing, the okra beat them. By the time they come back, the okra don't pop up there. The okra don't up here already. You know what I'm saying? They're dealing with them, right? When they're young, but once them damn okra start growing, it's like by the time they come back, the goddamn okra don't jump up way over them already. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Once they start growing, there's no stopping. And that's a good thing about my soil. I could only speak for my soil. That's the good thing about my soil. Things are just real fast. You see, from the time they start growing is up there, and everything going up in the air above your head. You know what I'm saying? So they just beat me real bad in the ollies, but then Oko just beat them real bad. Like them go for a couple, for a little, and then come back. By the time they come back, them Oko don't jump up already. So they got to leave. So what they do? They beat me with the potato vines. I put some broccoli leaf, but they didn't want it. Well, maybe try some potato slip cancel boy blue say. Maybe you might get lucky in that form. Yep. Yeah, man, from the time, yes, from the time you see them stay around liquor, they eating them, and they biting off their head, they carrying on. Every time you go, my gosh, man, these rabbits, man, they go and when by the time they come back, them will don't shoot up there. The cars they just shoot up. They can't deal with them no more. So yes, they beat me bad with the sweet potato vines, man. Me naturally had also plant sweet potato vines this year in a tub. A brand new tub me have. We just put it there and just plant the sweet potato just for able for them to eat them out. So hopefully I can get some sweet potato this year. But yes, guys, I'm hoping that this information tonight that I share with you guys can really, you guys can try it and it can really work for you guys just like how it worked for me. Because like I always say, I don't care which part of the world you are. There's certain principle goes to gardening. It doesn't matter where you are. There's certain principle. And if you could apply, just like how if you got to go somewhere, there's a road, you just got to travel the road. You got to travel the journey. Ain't nothing you could do. You want to get there, you got to travel the journey. You got to go the journey to get there. Because ain't nothing going to lift you up and just put you there. However, you got to follow the journey, whether you got to walk, whether you got to ride, you still got to follow the journey to get to that mountain, right? Same thing with the plants. There's a journey. All plants require certain things. And you only could give a plant a certain. Your job is only to give the plant that certain part. And it's that care from a baby. Make sure the root is covered. Make sure it's well taken care of. And that's when that plant start working on itself with nature. You can't, ain't nothing you could do there at that time. Your job done. Your job done. Your job is to walk around and make sure there's nothing messing with them. There's nothing, no vines trying to choke them out, no weeds trying to grow over them. That's your job. But the plant itself have to put in the work for itself now. Many times we believe we could do everything for a plant, but no, you can't. That plant, you got to remember, that plant have to grow. You see, we could only prepare the place for the plant and care for it as a baby. But at the end of the day, the plant got to take its journey. The plant got to do what it got to do and join with nature, then preserve itself, get it strengthen itself to start pushing out these food. So you can't do nothing for plant push out its food. Your job is to make sure you do what you need to do at the young age that plant could grow the right way and able to produce that same 4 stage I'm telling you about. Plants that almost ready. It's almost like succession planting. These plants supposed to be like succession planting. You harvest, there's from the time you harvest, there's some coming right in. Then you have baby one coming for when you harvest them that comes in. Then you have the flowers start over, pushing. So you always, they're supposed to always have 4 stages. Always. And I guarantee you, try what I'm telling you, and you're going to see something. Try it, and you will see something. I have, we call it right now, well, tomato is that tomato. And all of them have 4 stages on them. And it's the first time I'm actually growing them. Never grow them before. Never grow them my first time. But at this moment, they have 4 stages, and that's what I'm talking about. That same 4 stages. Some that almost ready, some that when them ready, gonna be coming in. Then you have the baby small one, then you have the flowers. So 4 stages. That's how your pepper should be. That's how your okra should be. That's how many plants in your garden should be at all time until that frost hit. This is why I put in 8 hours a day in my garden, straight 8 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours in the early stage. This is my last month of working hard in the garden. This is my last month. What I'm going to be doing in next month is only harvest. And before, last year, my last job was May. And in June, I start harvesting, go right back to October. But this year, I plant later this year. Usually in March, my garden full with food already. This year, I had also wait for April into May. So it kind of put me back a little further out. But right now, it's harvest time. From now, go right back to October, November. October is when I'm going to be harvesting my edibles. Man, I can't wait for this to harvest edibles. I cannot wait. If I get 75 pounds of edible from the little harvest I did last year, I might think I might be harvesting at least 200 pounds of edible this year. Maybe more for the amount of edibles I have planned. So, as always, guys, appreciate you guys coming through as always. Yes, the weather was not trying to let us. Yeah, this year was very challenging. You know, I could show you videos where March, I already have tomato growing, pepper growing in March. This year, couldn't do that. I had also do tests, take up plants and put them for tests. Then I see them out, they're struggling. You know, so yeah, this year was really different. Oh, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, I will be harvesting a ton load of edibles. Right now, I get some big root of damn edibles right now. You know what I mean? Some big root growing up right now. So that will be some thick root of edibles. Yes. Thanks, Panther, for sharing once again such a valuable. You're welcome, and it's my pleasure. Just not here to tell anyone, oh, stop, grow how you growing. No, we're not doing that. We want you to see for yourself. For how it works is try some the way you do it, try some the way I see, and see how it goes for you. and see how it goes for you. But everything I say, I already did it tons of times, many times, and it's actually work. So, all right, so today, we did it to the 11th, so 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have another class. So by that time, you're supposed to done almost plan everything by that time. So next 2 weeks topic gonna be I mean we still there, harvest still the far. Harvest still the far. So I don't really want to go into harvest right now. Right, June the 25th. Right, that's the next class. Let me write that down for make sure. June the 25th. Right, June the 25th for the next class. All right. So as always, thank you guys for coming out again. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to come and sit down and listen to what I'm saying. Just as like I mentioned, try it your way and my way and see what works for you. Next week, I think I want to talk about container gardening. Yes, I think I should go in a little about container garden for next week. Yes, that's next topic. No, not next week, next 2 weeks. Wait, hold on. On the June the 25th, and that's the last, oh man, hold on. And that's the last update, right? For the Herb Garden Challenge. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, June the 25th. That's the next class. And yes, I can't wait for the hope. I can't wait for see that last video. I can't. But yes, guys, as always, thank you guys for coming out again to gardening class 2023. I appreciate you guys as always. Hope to see you guys June the 25th. Peace, love, and blessing to each and every one of you. You guys have a blessed and wonderful night. Good night, everyone.